My brother changed the locks on Mom's house during her funeral and claimed it as his inheritance, but the property deed had a surprise. My mother lived in the same house for 35 years, the one where me, my brother Dean, and sister Amy grew up. When she got sick with cancer, we took turns taking care of her. Well, Amy and I did. Dean showed up twice in 6 months, both times asking Mom about her will and if the house was paid off. Mom would change the subject and he'd leave angry. Amy drove from 3 hours away every weekend to help with chemo appointments. I moved back into my old room temporarily to handle nights when Mom couldn't sleep from the pain. Dean lived 20 minutes away and couldn't be bothered unless it was about money. The last time he visited, Mom was barely conscious and he spent the whole time going through her filing cabinet looking for bank statements. When Mom passed on a Tuesday morning, I was holding her hand while Amy sang her favorite hymn. Dean didn't answer his phone until we'd already called the funeral home. His first question wasn't about arrangements or how we were doing. He asked if Mom had left any instructions about the house. At the funeral planning, while Amy and I picked flowers and music, Dean kept asking about the estate lawyer's contact information. He said we needed to be practical about assets. The funeral director looked disgusted. Amy told Dean to show some respect, and he said he was just trying to handle things like Mom would want. We had the service that Friday morning. Dean showed up late in jeans and left early saying he had something urgent to handle. Amy gave a beautiful eulogy about Mom's kindness. I read her favorite poem. Dean sat in the back texting. We thought he was just being his usual selfish self. After the burial, everyone went to Amy's house for the reception since she'd coordinated all the food, and Mom's friends knew the address. Dean said he couldn't make it, something about a work emergency. We were honestly relieved he wouldn't be there to make everyone uncomfortable with his money questions. About 2 hours into the reception, Amy's neighbor called her. She lived 2 streets over from Mom's house and saw a locksmith truck in the driveway. Amy tried calling Dean, but he didn't answer. I drove over immediately while Amy stayed with the guests. When I got there, Dean was directing some moving guys who were carrying his furniture into Mom's house. The locks were already changed and he had new keys on his belt. I asked what he was doing and he said he was moving in. He said possession was 9/10 of the law, and since Mom didn't have a will, the house would go to whoever was living in it. He actually said I should have thought of it first if I wanted the house. The locksmith was packing up and looked uncomfortable when I said our mother's funeral was literally still happening. Dean told him it was fine, that he'd inherited the property. When I tried to go inside, Dean blocked the door and said it was his house now. He'd already moved his clothes into the master bedroom. Mom's bed wasn't even cold and he'd thrown her quilts in the hallway. Her medications were swept into a garbage bag by the door. Her photos were stacked on the floor so he could hang his flat screen TV. He'd clearly researched this. He'd planned it while Mom was dying. That night, Amy and I went to Mom's lawyer even though it was after hours. We'd called him urgently and he met us at his office. We explained what Dean did and asked about the estate process. The lawyer started laughing. Not a mean laugh, but like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. He asked if Dean really thought Mom didn't have a will. We said Dean had been asking about it for months and Mom always changed the subject. The lawyer pulled out Mom's file. She'd updated her will a year ago when she got diagnosed. The house wasn't going to any of us. She'd left it to her church with instructions to sell it and use the money for their homeless shelter program. She'd written a letter explaining that Dean only cared about money, so he'd get none. Amy and I were each getting $50,000 from her life insurance, plus all her personal belongings that were already moved to a storage unit she'd secretly rented and given us keys to. Dean got nothing except a note saying she forgave him for being heartless but wouldn't enable it. The lawyer called the church's attorney that evening. By Monday morning, Dean was served with eviction papers. Then the church discovered something in the house after the eviction. Full story on channel, link below.